Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez urges the European Union to reconsider tariffs on China-made electric vehicles.
Neighbouring countries Austria and Poland have expressed criticism of Germany's recent decision to tighten its border in an attempt to curb illegal migration. Presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump clashed in a 90-minute live debate, less than 2 months out from Election Day.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken and UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy have arrived in Kyiv for talks with senior Ukrainian officials, including President Volodymyr Zelensky. Ukraine has been pressing its Western allies to permit the use of long-range missiles against Russia and is expected to intensify these efforts following accusations Iran has been providing Russia with short-range ballistic missiles. The Kremlin says it will respond appropriately if the US agrees to lift the restrictions. It comes as President Zelensky was joined by leaders from Lithuania, Croatia, Latvia and the Czech Republic to unveil a Ukrainian memorial for the victims of the Crimean Tatar genocide in 1944. Meanwhile, Russia claims to have captured a Ukrainian village near Vuhledar in the Donetsk Oblast region, while its defense ministry says Ukraine launched 144 drones at Russian regions overnight.
Russia launched joint navy drills with China. That was announced by Russian President Vladimir Putin. He states the drills are an attempt to check Russia's combat readiness and to strengthen military cooperation with its allies. The Russian leader blames the United States for disrupting the balance of power in the Asia-Pacific region.
Фактически США провоцируют гонку вооружений, не считаясь с безопасностью своих европейских и азиатских союзников. Формируют предпосылки для опасной кризисной ситуации в Европе и в Азиатско-Тихоокеанском регионе. Хочу подчеркнуть, Россия должна быть готова к любому развитию обстановки.
The naval exercises are the largest of their kind in 3 decades and will span the Pacific and Arctic Oceans, the Mediterranean, Caspian and Baltic Seas. The drills involve over 90,000 troops, more than 400 vessels at sea, and 120 aircrafts and helicopters.
Spain has broken ranks with the European Commission by warning against plans to slap hefty tariffs on Chinese imported electric vehicles. Speaking during a 4-day visit to China, the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez said that the EU needs to reconsider the tariffs to avoid an all-out trade war with Beijing.
I have to be blunt and frank. I think that we need to reconsider, all of us, not only member states, but also the Commission, our position towards this movement. And as I said before, we don't need another war, in this case a trade war. I think that we need to bring bridges between the European Union and China, and from Spain what we will do is to be constructive and to try to find a solution, a compromise between China and the European Commission.
The European Union introduced tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles in July after a 9-month probe found Beijing was pumping generous subsidies across the supply chain, putting European companies at a competitive disadvantage. Spain backed the move in a consultative vote in July, but seems to have U-turned on its position as it warns against escalating the trade conflict. China has already retaliated against the EU tariffs with an anti-subsidy probe into pork products, a move which could hurt industry in Spain, which accounts for some 25% of China's pork imports.
Sobre el porcino, nosotros hemos manifestado a las autoridades chinas nuestra sorpresa porque se haya involucrado en esta negociación comercial potenciales sanciones a un sector que nada tiene que ver con el sector de la automoción.
EU member states are expected to vote definitively on the tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles in October. A majority of member states would need to oppose the move in order to block the measures. The European Commission has said it stands ready to reach an alternative solution compatible with WTO principles with the Chinese government.
Neighbouring countries are expressing criticism following Germany's decision to set up temporary controls at all of its land borders. The decision, which expanded checks already in place at some borders, aims to curb irregular migration, according to German Interior Minister Nancy Faeser. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said the action was unacceptable from the Polish point of view, adding that the decision means the suspension of the Schengen zone on a large scale.
Zwrócimy się w najbliższych godzinach do innych państw, które będą dotknięte tymi decyzjami Berlina, o pilne konsultacje w sprawie działania na forum Unii Europejskiej w tej kwestii.
Austria's Interior Minister Gerhard Karner said Germany's decision was illegal and that Austria would not accept migrants rejected by Germany. However, he also said he was glad that Germany was addressing what he said was the major problem of illegal migration in Europe.
Es ist nicht zu akzeptieren, wenn illegale Dinge passieren. Wir leben in einem Rechtsstaat und wenn Deutschland dies plant, dann ist das illegal in dieser Art und Weise. Daher werden wir keinen annehmen, keinen zurücknehmen. Hier gibt es null Spielraum.
The temporary controls at all German borders sparked a fierce debate about whether refugees could be turned back. Discussion is dominating German political discourse about asylum and migration policy.
Germany is enforcing checks at all of its borders for at least 6 months. Berlin says it needs to curb irregular migration amid a strained asylum system. Several other countries in the open border Schengen area are doing the same, particularly in Central and Northern Europe. Neighboring Austria has beefed up security at its borders with Hungary, Slovenia and the Czech Republic. Denmark and Norway tightened controls in their ports connected to Schengen. Elsewhere in Scandinavia, Sweden is now also carrying out checks on all of its borders. The trend is driven by the increasingly tense geopolitical scenario and related terrorist threats and hate crimes, as well as by security for major sporting events that recently took place, like Euro 2024, the Olympics and the Paralympics. They prompted France and Slovenia to reinforce their border security in the summer and autumn.
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump clashed in their first and perhaps only debate before the presidential election. During the 90-minute battle between nominees from the Democratic and Republican parties, the two candidates showcased their starkly different visions for the US on topics like democracy, national security, and American foreign policy.
Very well known.
Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
No, she was black until a number.
Harris's performance seemed to be the opposite of President Joe Biden's in June, with sharp, focused answers, while Biden at times appeared incoherent.
And that Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. You have worked with.
The debate took place less than 2 months from Election Day and hours before the first early ballots will begin to be mailed in parts of the country.
By the way, for 4 years.
This is the third year in a row that Vienna has been named the most livable city in the world by the Economist Intelligence Unit, taking into account many considerations falling under 5 categories of education, environment, healthcare, infrastructure, and culture.
When we talk about Mercer or even the Economist Intelligence Unit, I think these studies or these rankings are very comprehensively looking into factors such as the availability of green space or public transportation or the infrastructure in general. And I think as someone who lives here, Vienna ticks many boxes here and really is a very livable city, a city that just works very well. Vienna perfectly combines Northern European efficiency and Southern European lifestyle. And this lifestyle involves a very high degree of enjoyment. It's not so much a matter of what you can do here in the city, it's more a matter of what you want to do.
It sounds simple, but I think the transit system actually is a really important part of it, because it's really easy to get around. You can get basically anywhere from point A to point B within 30 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, pastries are quite expensive, but it's not primal need in life, you know? So food is quite expensive. That's the only thing that is kind of sad. And that Vienna could do better. But yeah, I'd say the best part is that you can just go out and stay out. And it's safe, and it's reachable,